Hey everyone, let's play Spot the Difference. Can you see the difference between these three games? No? Okay, I'll just tell you. This one is garbage. This one is both garbage and one of the best games ever. And this one's an actual Zelda game. Hey everyone, how's it going? Total Level here, so if you're still sticking around, I guess I didn't piss you off enough to leave, so thank you for sticking around. So yeah, we're going to discuss about when game companies change a game's formula, right? I think this is a very interesting topic right now, especially, we have two big games that came out that are very mixed results with people of Final Fantasy 16 and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, right? So, kind of with my intro there, I do enjoy all three of those Zeldas, especially Wind Waker. Tears of the Kingdom, I haven't beat yet, it's kind of on the backlog, but the few hours I did play, I did enjoy the game. There's still things I don't necessarily like, especially the weapon durability, but overall, I'm enjoying it. And Zelda 2 I don't think is as bad as people say it is. It's, still near the bottom for me for Zelda games, but I still enjoy the experience of that game. But, yeah, I just want to talk about this because it's interesting how our thoughts are towards a game's formula change, right? Because pretty much anytime we see new gameplay trailer or something of a game that just completely changes the formula, we automatically just like, yeah, this is going to be awful, right? And it's funny to think about because, yeah, when we get our hands on these things, that's when we make the judgment calls where we either absolutely love the changes and embrace the changes, or we absolutely hate the game, the formula changes, and the series is basically dead to us, right? So it's one of those funny things to think about because, yeah, there are some changes where, for the most part, people do love them, and we'll get to a couple of those later on, but yeah, just kind of want to talk about this and try to keep this around 10 to 20 minutes long for a discussion, because, yeah, it is funny how our brains think that way, and it's understandable too, right, because it'd be like if I all of a sudden decided, hey, I like hockey, because I'm Canadian, so I have to. But, I do love hockey, and, favorite team is Calgary Flames, and if all of a sudden that's all I talked about were the Flames, and changed my channel to just nothing but hockey talk, then, it'd be the same thing where there might be some people sticking around, but yeah, I would get a lot of people just leaving my channel not happy with me, changing it since they subscribed for being, a gaming channel, while others would join because it's like, oh, I do like hockey, so I'll subscribe to you, to talk about that. It's kind of the same thing. You would get the same sort of mixed results where in a perfect world, I would just create a second channel where if I wanted to talk about hockey, well then I could do it on that channel so people who like hockey can join there, or like the Flames and things like that, and any gaming stuff can stay here, right? So, yeah, I get it, and we sort of got that before, right? Because when Nintendo, were making games for both handheld and home consoles, Sony a little bit too with PSP and Vita until they gave up on that entirely pretty quick, especially the Vita. We sort of got that because for people who didn't like the 3D Zeldas on the N64, GameCube, Wii, etc., not to say like you would play a handheld game or whatever, because I know a lot of people want to just play games on their big screen TVs and everything like that, but at least if you wanted a Zelda experience that was similar to, say, A Link to the Past, then you kind of go to the Game Boy Advance games, and even DS and 3DS, because Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, and then Link Between Worlds, kind of had that same top-down view, right? And and of course, Link Between Worlds, sequel to Link to the Past, right? And yeah, so we at least had that, and I think that's why now people are feeling a bit more upset about, companies changing these formulas when they don't really necessarily like them, or think that the changes just aren't a fun game or anything like that, right? Because, now we're kind of sort of stuck with whatever a company puts out, now Nintendo has tried to at least help a little bit, because, if you want formulaic Zelda games, you do have Nintendo Switch Online to play older ones, along with, on the Switch itself, you had Link's Awakening remake, along with HD version of Skyward Sword. It's still not perfect, it's not like a new Zelda experience, but you still had a bit of that, but still, people want kind of that new experience. Now, when it comes to Zelda, though, frankly, Breath of the Wild is the fans' fault, whether people like to admit it or not, because that game was really made for the fans, because for years for Zelda, fans wanted an open-world Zelda that was a lot more harder, a lot more difficult, that had voice acting and didn't hold your hand. There's probably other aspects I'm forgetting, but those were kind of the four big ones, and we got that with Breath of the Wild. We may have gotten other things that some people might not have liked or agreed with, but that's what fans wanted, right? And, we'll have to see what Zelda is moving forward, because obviously, there has been a lot of great success with Breath of the Wild and now Tears of the Kingdom, so we'll have to see. And then Final Fantasy, that one's interesting in thinking, because from what I understand, Final Fantasy 16 did not come close to meeting Square Enix's expectations, so that one might be a bit different now. I love Final Fantasy 16, but again, understandably, with the changes, a lot of people didn't feel the same way, right? And now, for me, at least with Square Enix, you do have games like Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, Bravely Default, Live Alive, Triangle Strategy, whatever, right? That at least, can fulfill, hopefully for some people, kind of that, missing part of the old Final Fantasy formula, because that's kind of what's interesting to me too, is it's like, if Octopath Traveler 1 and 2 was called Final Fantasy 16 or whatever, would people, how would people react to that? That's what I want to kind of know. Would people be excited because it would follow kind of that old Final Fantasy formula a little bit? Or would people be upset because, oh, well, look at the graphics, like they didn't put any budget to this, or they put a bit lower budget, because, and for me, the graphics on these games look fantastic. Like, I love that pixel art style, but, it's very different than what we're getting with Final Fantasy 16 and, yeah, just Final Fantasy 7 Remake and later with Rebirth, right? So, it's just interesting to think that, yeah, if those games were under the name of Final Fantasy, how would people react? And that's something I want to kind of talk about quickly too, is spin-offs, because, when it comes to spin-offs, it seems like people are okay with a game's formula change, even if they don't necessarily like how the game looks or plays or anything. They don't get nearly as upset, and I'm guessing it's because since it's a spin-off, it's not part of the main series, so it's okay to try different things, whether they work or not. But what's funny to me is, you'll have people that say don't like Final Fantasy VII Remake or might not like Final Fantasy 16 or anything like that, yet they love Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core or something like that, right? It's very interesting to me how spin-offs are kinda okay to do this, whether they succeed or not, but when it comes to the main series, those have to be untouchable. Now there are some cases where, again, formula changes really help, right? Because we have, 2 examples I wanted to give is Resident Evil 4, the original. I want to get the remake at some point, but yeah, talk about the original. And Metroid Prime, because remember, when Metroid Prime was announced, man, people hated the idea of that game. People hated that Metroid was going to be this first-person shooter, right? And once people got their hands on it, it was a huge success where, granted, there's still going to be people that don't like that formula. Same with Resident Evil 4, kind of big change with its third-person shooting action perspective. But, what I think helped with both of those games is, yes, the perspectives changed, but the formulas themselves were still very present. Like with Metroid Prime, it was a first-person shooter, but it played just like other Metroid games where you would go to certain areas, fight a boss, get, an upgrade for your weapon or suit or something so that you can unlock new areas that were previously inaccessible, and now explore those areas, get more upgrades, things like that. And it was kind of the same with Resident Evil 4, where yes, it was now a third-person action game, but it still had the many horror elements. You had many item managements to do, and so it all worked together. And I think that's the biggest thing for a formula change is those are the ones people embrace the most, because yes, you still have a change in perspective, but you don't change the core idea of the game, right? Because something like, say, Star Fox Adventures, that's very different from Star Fox. I love that game. I recently beat that game for the first time, and yeah, really enjoyed it. It was a really fun Zelda experience, but it was definitely didn't feel like a Star Fox experience, right? And it wasn't supposed to be. Like, we all know the story that it wasn't originally going to be a Star Fox game, but it ended up that way. And yeah, it's just interesting because, yeah, that's one that's very mixed too, but, that's kind of what I'm talking about, is because it changed so drastically that really it just had Star Fox characters in it that, or we're talking about Zelda Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom now, where you don't have that Zelda formula of going through, you still have that story progression of certain dungeons and everything, but you don't have that, like, big item you get in a dungeon that you use to defeat the boss of that dungeon and everything like that, right? So that's where it's very different than going back to spin-offs. So I said spin-offs are okay to change, but what happens when a spin-off that people love changes its own formula? Because we got that with the Paper Mario series, because Paper Mario, spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG, people love the first 2 games, and I do too. They're fantastic JRPGs. And then we get the 3rd game that started to become more an adventure title, which I love Super Paper Mario on the Wii. I think more people should give it a chance because it's a fantastic kind of adventure platformer RPG. It's kind of these weird mixes of things, but it works really well. And yeah, like, there's a lot of love and great story in that game too, but understandably, again, people didn't like the change, right? Because they were so used to these JRPG Paper Marios. And granted, I would love Nintendo to go back to those too, but I'm not going to deny that the other Paper Mario games are fantastic and fun to play, The only one I didn't really get into was Sticker Star, but, I thought the latest one, Origami King, was really fun on the Switch, right? But that's kind of it, I guess, I want to discuss, and because it's just interesting, what do you guys think about formula changes? Because for me, most of the time I do like the changes, Sometimes I don't want a game to always be that change or anything, but every now and then it's nice to see something change, freshen up, get away from kind of the usual formula, right? Where, and yeah, I do like a lot of these changes for games, but a lot of people don't, right? And for me too, it's kind of like, I do hope people, if they don't like a certain change, that they don't just make one bad experience ruin kind of other games for them, right? And I know that's hard, but I really hope that people still kind of try other games out there. Like, if a formula changes that you just don't like, then try finding another game that's similar of that style, right? Because there's so many great Zelda-type games, so many great Final Fantasy-type games, right? And, and I know it sucks, you want, because you grew up loving these franchises, you want those to be kind of the big ones, but it's just something, that I think about, where I hate seeing people let one bad experience ruin other games for them, right? So yeah, let me know what you guys think about formula changes, because yeah, we didn't even talk about things like, Sonic going from 2D to 3D, and then with Sonic Frontiers being quite different, or same thing with Mario going 2D to 3D and everything like that, right? But yeah, like I said, I wanted to keep it around 10 to 20 minutes, so let me know what you all think, and I'll see you next time, everyone. Alright, have a great rest of your day. Die! 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 Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and comment, and subscribe if you want to see more, or if you just want to see any of my skits and then nothing else and leave the video, that's fine too. Thanks everyone, take care.